One day, Paddington's friend Mr. Gruber took him on an outing to a place called Hampton Court Palace.
"I think you'll enjoy it, Mr. Brown,"
he said as they drew near.
"It's very old and has 1,000 rooms. Lots of kings and queens have lived here."
Paddington always enjoyed his outings with Mr. Gruber, and he couldn't wait to see inside the palace. As they made their way through an arch, Mr. Gruber pointed to a large clock.
"That's a very special clock,"
he said.
"It's the only one that shows the time. It tells you what month it is." "Perhaps we should hurry, Mr. Gruber,"
said Paddington anxiously.
"It's June already." "This is known as the Haunted Gallery,"
said Mr. Gruber.
"They say that when Catherine Howard's ghost passes by you, you can feel a cold draft."
Paddington shivered.
"I hope she's got a duffel coat like mine,"
he said.
"This is known as the Haunted Gallery,"
said Mr. Gruber.
"They say that when Catherine Howard's ghost passes by you, you can feel a cold draft."
Paddington shivered.
"I hope she's got a duffel coat like mine,"
he said. Mr. Gruber took Paddington to see the kitchen next.
"In the old days they used wood fires,"
he explained.
"That's why there is such high ceiling. There was a lot of smoke." "I was hoping they might have left some royal bums behind,"
said Paddington, licking his lips.
"Talking of buns,"
said Mr. Gruber,
"I think it's time we had our lunch."
He led the way outside, and they sat down together on the edge of a pool. As Paddington opened his suitcase, he accidentally dropped one of his sandwiches into the water. It was soon alive with goldfish.
"They must like marmalade,"
said Mr. Gruber.
"I wonder if that's how they got their name."
When they had finished their sandwiches, Mr. Gruber took Paddington to see the grapevine.
"It's very famous,"
he said.
"Every year they pick over 500 branches of grapes. Imagine that, Mr. Brown." "I'm trying to, Mr. Gruber," said
Paddington.
"I think I might plant a grape pit when I get back home."
Mr. Gruber chuckled.
"I'm afraid you will have to long wait for that, Mr. Brown,"
he said.
"The grapevine is over 200 years old." "Now,"
said Mr. Gruber,
"before we start, we must visit the famous maze. Sometimes it takes people hours to find their way out." "I hope that doesn't happen to us," said
Paddington.
"My paws are getting tired already." "Perhaps it's time to take you home,"
said Mr. Gruber. Much to his surprise, the words were no sooner out of his mouth than everyone around them began to talk. "Hey, that sounds a great idea," said a man in a striped shirt. "Please do wait while I buy a new film for my camera," said a Japanese lady. "I've never been inside a real English home before," said another lady. "I wonder if they serve tea."
"Oh dear,"
whispered Mr. Gruber.
"They must think I'm one of the guides. What shall we do?" "Mrs. Bird won't be pleased if they follow us home," exclaimed Paddington. "She only has one small teapot." Then he had an idea. "Follow me," he called. "I think perhaps we ought to go to the maze after all." "Are you sure we are doing the right thing?" gasped Mr. Gruber as he hurried on behind. "Bears are good at mazes," said Paddington. "You need to be in darkest proof. The forests are very thick." And sure enough, before Mr. Gruber had time to say any more, Paddington led the way out, leaving everyone else inside. "However did you manage to do that, Mr. Brown?" gasped Mr. Gruber. "Quickest visit I've ever seen," agreed the man in the ticket office. "I used marmalade chunks to show where we had been," said Paddington. "It's something my Aunt Lucy taught me before she went to the Home for Retired Bears." "But I thought you've eaten all your sandwiches," said Mr. Gruber. "I always keep a spare one under my hat in case of emergency," said Paddington. "That's something else Aunt Lucy taught me. She'll be very pleased when she hears."
and he stopped at a kiosk to buy a picture postcard so that he could write and tell her all about his day out. That night when he went to bed, as well as the postcard and the pen, Paddington took some rope.
It's something Queen Anne used to do,
he announced.
I've got a lot of things to tell you, Aunt Lucy. I don't want to fall out of my bed before I've finished. Goodbye.